The whole process of a successful job search and eventual interview, well, involves several moving parts, including gathering testimonials or references from people that can vouch for your character, your job experience, and the quality of your work. So today, that's what we're going to talk about: job references. Hi there, my name is Ed Humphrey and welcome to About Townshippers. This is a web series where we put the spotlight on the organizations, the individuals, and the events that are really making a positive difference in the lives of English speakers living throughout Quebec's eastern townships. And back for another visit today is Jessica Girard. She's a career counselor at JobLinks right here in Sherbrooke. And today she's going to give us some tips and some information revolving around job references. What they are, how you can get them, and how you can use them to your advantage when you're applying for your next job. Here's our conversation. Well, good morning, Jessica, and welcome back to About Townshippers.
Thank you. Good morning to you too.
Well, it's great to see you again.
Same here.
Let's start off with a definition this morning. Jessica, What exactly is a job reference?
So a job reference is basically someone that can talk about your work experience, habits, skills, and character.
Now, are there any guidelines or etiquette that we should respect when we're looking for a job and we want to get some good job references?
So there are a few. One of them is making a list of potential references and going through them, and then calling these individuals and just talking about your responsibilities that you had, reminding them of your successes and maybe the work that you've done with them, so they can have a better idea when individuals will call them. You can also inform your references. So inform your references in regards to the job you're applying to. Inform them on maybe the medium that the employer might use to get a hold of them. Another rule of etiquette, I guess, would be to, when mentioning your references on a document, mentioning the skills. So for example, if you're going to mention your employer, you can mention what skills that employer can talk about. And then finally, what you could also do, just like after an interview, you can send your reference a letter or an email to thank them for being a reference for you.
Okay, because it is a pretty important thing, a job reference, not only for the person that's trying to get that reference for a potential new job, but also it's a professional statement coming from the person that's offering the review or the reference on that employee, right?
Exactly.
Who should one ask to be a reference?
So you have a lot of different choices, I guess you can say that. So you can use a current or past employer. You could talk to a coworker that has seen your work, that has worked with you, and that can judge your work. You could also be professors. I've used a professor of my own for a reference. And ideally choose a professor that knows you more than just like your student number. So someone that can really judge your work. Coaches, individuals where you've volunteered. It could be friends, but friends that work where you work and can have seen your work and know how you are as an employee. And it could also be for people maybe that are just coming out of school, individuals that you've worked on group projects with, and that can tell employers how you are and how you work.
Because here it's a reference, as you mentioned earlier, that talks about our skills, our personality, or our character, how well we did our job, how we solved problems.
Exactly.
Okay. And I guess if I was applying for a job, I wouldn't ask my sister, right, or my dad or family members.
Ideally you can ask a friend, but I would say that friend should be someone that you're working with and that can really judge how you work, your habits, your character, your skills, your experience.
Social media plays a huge role in our lives right now. I mean, a huge role that's an H, a capital H when I say huge role. Now, should we take that into consideration when we're applying for jobs or asking certain people to give us references?
Yeah, we should. I mean, just like before an interview, I mean, you verify your profile and make sure there's no inappropriate statements or pictures. You would do the same thing for references too. You could just easily check on your references on their social media pages and just make sure there's no inappropriate pictures or statements. And then if there is, you could ask them, you know, if it's something they can remove, or if you don't feel, if it's not something you can do, just avoid using them as references. Just because, you know, a bad reference could be the reason behind not getting a job. So,
Are there any other opportunities to avoid asking for a reference?
I would say if you have the slightest inclination that you might not get a good reference, don't use them as a reference. Use someone else. And you could ask them, so prior to your interview, you could call and ask to get a good reference. And if it's not possible, just avoid them.
So if perhaps, you know, if I got fired from a job, that may not be
Yeah, that may not be the best.
the best reference to get.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. And is there any kind of a time span that we should respect when we ask for a reference? Is it just for one job, or can we use it for several different jobs, or what are your thoughts on that?
Because essentially before you go to any interview, I believe you should call your references and ask them if they can still be used as references. Sometimes individuals will turn down the request. Sometimes they might not remember quite who you are or your skills, your habits and all that. So they might turn them down. I would say call them if they still want to be used as a reference, then use them. And if you know that they can give a good reference. So I would say as long as you can still contact them and they can still judge your job performance, then still use them as reference. And generally speaking, you could go 5 to 7 years back. But I find beyond that, it just becomes more difficult because they might not remember your skills, your character, your habits.
Okay. Now, would we have to go back to them? You may have mentioned this, but should we go back to them for every new job application, or?
Ideally, I would, unless they tell you, you don't need to call me, you can just use me as a reference. I would just let them know.
Well, this is really interesting, Jessica, because when we're thinking about interviews, you know, we think about preparing for it, dressing correctly, you know, finding the interview and doing all that type of preparation. But I can see that it could be easy to neglect, you know, really getting correct, good quality references, you know, as we're moving into new jobs or preparing for new job interviews. So I'd like to thank you again for taking some time for us today. And now, Jessica Girard, you are a guidance counselor at JobLinks Employment Center in Sherbrooke. And we'll probably be seeing you real soon for another couple segments, everything related to employment and looking for employment. So, well, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure, Ed.
You take care.
Thanks, you too.
And there you have it. If you'd like some more information on the different services offered by JobLinks right here in Sherbrooke, well, take a look at the video description. We've put all the contact information that you need. And if you found today's information useful, if you enjoy the web series, well, please hit the share and the like buttons, because it really helps us, you know, spread the news and the information throughout the English-speaking communities of Quebec's Eastern Townships. And don't forget, you can also subscribe to Townshippers Association's YouTube channel. Well, thanks again for spending a bit of your time with us today. My name is Ed Humphrey. This is About Townshippers, and we'll see you next time.